Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about working hard. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, "Hi Frederick, this may be a good question to make a video about one day. I was wondering, what is your definition of working hard? I'm seeing people recommend to new developers that they should not work too hard, as in work extra hours or weekends, as it will likely lead to burnout, or the company will expect that work rate from you all the time. Or your dev team may even look at you like, what are you doing? You are making us look lazy." I know that not all devs code at the same speed, and the experience of a junior means they will do things at a slower pace than a non-junior dev, but perhaps what are some good traits that show a dev is working hard? And what are some traits people mistake as working hard but is actually bad? What mistakes look like they're working hard but it's actually bad? Is working hard a term that shouldn't be used in programming, because our jobs isn't always about writing code or doing something tangible? Sometimes it's about problem solving in our head and not being able to sleep because of that bug we can't seem to fix in our minds because we're just so passionate about what we do. I guess what I'm asking is, what is working hard and what is not working hard? Well, so for this to make any sense to you, I need to give you my thoughts on people and the thing that you're actually asking about now. To take an analogy, what is a tall person to you? Well, if you ask someone what a tall person, what's a tall person, they will give you a measurement usually. But what's interesting is that if you ask a person, like, what's the specific number, like how many centimeters or feet or whatever you're using, how much is that? Well, it's going to very much depend on the person who you're asking. Some people will say that tall is someone who is, I don't know, 170, 180 centimeters. Another person can say 190, 2 meters, etc., etc. And if you go to East Asia, what do you think the number is going to be there? So depending on where you are, depending on who you're asking, they're going to give you a different definition of this thing. It's the same sort of thing as who's skinny and who's fat, who is I don't know, old and young, etc., etc., who's working hard, who's not working. There is this subjective idea that we might have in our head how to define that thing. And one example, which is a very common, it's not a mental mistake per se, but one very common trait that people are looking for is what you touched on it yourself, is how many hours are you putting in? Because people equate the amount of hours that you put into something like, dedication, something similar like that. It's very similar to how, if you know a lot of languages, people will assume that you're smart. I usually like to joke and say, do you want to be the smartest person in a room? Learn how to say a few basic phrases in 5 different languages, and then say that to people who know none of those 5 languages. They're going to think you're super smart. And the same thing is true here. So depending on who you're working for, or who you're working with, they will have their own sort of idea of what working hard means. And so in one company, and I mean, I'm not going to lie, it's very common for people to say, oh, this person comes before everybody else and clocks out after everybody else. That person is really working hard. That is absolutely something that people in general will think. But let me throw a curveball to you. What do you think that matters if that person is absolute shit at their job? You see, those extra hours, they're only worth something if you're actually doing something useful. And that's when this is where we segue into what I think you should focus more on than working hard, and that is the value that you are providing. What is the value? And this is also extremely complicated because, once again, what is value? What is value building? Well, it depends on your boss. It depends on what your coworkers care about, etc., etc. And this is why I tell people that you can be the best software developer who ever lived, and All that needs to happen for you to get fired, even though you are the best of the best, is that your manager either has like really weird expectations, or they put you on a project where the last developer built the whole thing in, I don't know, assembly code or whatever. It's they've created a situation where even though you are extremely talented, it's going to look from the perspective of the person who doesn't know any better that you're incompetent. Not because you are, but because the circumstances are created in such a way that you can't really do much about it. And this is unfair. It's so unfair, but it is part of, well, it's not necessarily just software development, it's part of everybody's situation. I don't want to think about how many people are in prison because they were at the wrong place at the wrong time. And unfortunately, that is reality. So what I'm practically trying to say to you here is that you have to, at an individual level, figure this out. What is working hard and what is like not working hard. And so as an example, you say that you're a junior software developer. Well, as a junior software developer, it is great if you show dedication, because a lot of, that's the main selling point. For a junior software developer showing dedication, working a few extra hours here and there, that is a very good indicator. But that is not the only thing that your manager is going to care about. Usually, it's also about the results. So, as an example, if you have another coworker who doesn't work as many hours as you do, but they have better ideas, or they are better at social, like the soft skills thing, and like they get people to think that they're really good, or they are very good, as I like to say, to project value, then they don't have to work harder. They don't have to work extra hours because they're already valuable. And that is really, at the end of the day, what matters, isn't it? Working hard is pointless if you're valuable. I mean, guys, there are people in this world, and I can't believe that this is true, but it is. There are people who are making money, and a lot of money, from simply knowing a lot of people, or knowing the right people. If you want investors, hey, yeah, let's me and you sit down and talk, and you do my presentation, and maybe I'll call my friend up who's like a multi-billionaire, and I'll get you an interview with that person, and then of course I'll have a finder's fee and stuff like that, and then like an hourly rate just to hear you out. And you could say that that person isn't working very hard because you're being paid basically for your social network. I'm sure that they are working in their own way, but I hope you understand what I'm saying. It's not like this idea that, yeah, working hard is the thing that matters. No, it's not. It's about a much more complicated thing than that. So what I think that you should really think about is, as I said, the individual level. Is what does your manager care about? You don't have to work late all the time, but what you should focus on, especially if you're a junior, is your personal progress. And this is where it gets really fucking tricky for you. And this is why I think that there's not much you can do about this. You are who you are. There's no way for you to just magically become smarter, because you have to go through the journey, just as someone who wants to get into shape. If you're really out of shape, it's going to take you longer to get into shape. And it's the same thing with software development. If you are like a genius type of person, yeah, your manager or like whoever you're working with are going to be really impressed with you. But not everybody is a genius. It's going to take time for you to learn things. And this is where the balancing act happens. Your performance and personal improvement as a junior software developer needs to stand in proportion to the expectations of your manager. If they do not, it's really hard to say who's in the wrong. Is your job expecting you to perform at an unreasonable level, or is it you who lack the talent? Regardless of which truth we go with, the result is still the same. You are not perceived as someone who is valuable, or like you might get into trouble, etc., etc. But here's the kicker: there's nothing you can do about it, except apart from accepting the fear and anxiety that comes with it. And this is the trial of passage for every single software developer, guys. This is literally what we all have to go through. Even if you get fired, even if you have like a lot of anxieties and so forth, it's about continuously progressing until you give up, or until you get so good that you are at that level where you need. And this is where I like to say people should start off thinking about rather than trying to be the best. You need to be good enough. That's what you're looking for. You don't look at it. I know it's so easy for me to say that because I have a few years of doing the thing that you're describing, trying to prove that I'm the best, trying to prove that I work the hardest, etc., etc. And I promise you guys, it's good to have that in a way, because it's going to motivate you to do your best. But don't don't put it on yourself to try to be the world's best coder. Try to get there because it's fun and because you love the thing that you're doing, but understand that it's not about being the best. Even if some job posting says that, and some weird people on the internet say that, it's about being able to do a job. That is what it is about. So what I want you to take away from this is that it is nigh on impossible to say what's working hard and what's not working hard, because it's similar to asking who is tall, who is short, who is fat, who is thin, who is young, who is old. Every single person you're going to ask might have a very different opinion, or a slightly, at the very least, different opinion on where that range goes. And it doesn't really matter all that much if you are perceived as working hard or not, if you're not a valuable asset, because putting in, as an example, extra hours doesn't mean shit if you're always fucking everything up and everything is always buggy with your code and so forth. So the only thing you can really do here is to be who you are, do your absolute best, because you can't. I know it doesn't sound nice, but you cannot just magically become smarter than you are. All you can do is that hope that by giving it your all and really going in and trying to do what you can, following tips and tricks from people who know better than you, and trying to continuously learn from your mistake, that you will meet the expectations of the employer. If you're lucky, you're going to. If you're unlucky, you might not, and you might have to find another job and hope that the next employer is better. It's hard to say, but I don't think that even if you were to try to work extra hours, it might not work. But then again, it might work, because it very much depends on you. If you know that your manager would appreciate if you put in some extra hours, it might turn out really well for you. You might not be able to do it forever, but I promise you, nobody's hopefully going to expect you to do it forever. But you have to try it out, because, as I said, you need to know yourself what is going to go over well with the people around you, because it's them who is going to decide if you're valuable or working hard or not working. Have a great day.